Okay, it says we're being live streamed. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Angie Atkinson, and I'm here with the lovely and talented Lise Colucci. Lise, welcome back.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Happy to have you. So, as we're waiting for everyone to get in the chat and for the screen to show up for me, there it comes. um, I thought I would let me just tell you what we're going to talk about today. As you can see by the title, it's parental alienation, and not just from the standpoint of a child, but looking forward from the standpoint of an adult survivor of parental alienation, or several of us. Lise, I didn't even think to ask you before we went live, did you ever experience that yourself?
I didn't think so, but now but you know how like you hear something and you're like, oh no, I didn't experience that, and then you realize, oh wait, I actually did. It was that kind of
Yes.
thing where, yes, yeah, because you don't know the whole. Here's that's I think part of the thing about parental alienation is you don't know that it's happening when you're the child until
Yeah.
you're way into your adulthood and you put the pieces together.
I couldn't have said it better. And so, do you care to share any of that experience, or are you not ready for that?
Oh, it's just having one person say one part of the story, which was keeping the parent at a distance and then away,
Yes.
at the same time as filling my head with information about the parent that would be negative or derogatory or things
Yeah.
you didn't want around you.
Hmm.
And then hearing the flip side years later that it was actually they were threatened to stay away.
Mm.
And and
Did you
so it so
go
to
ahead?
me that's alienation because that's not allowing the child to there wasn't a reason for the threat, let's put it that way.
Right. Right.
There was no abuse or um, threats of abuse that would
It was
keep.
just
Yeah, it was just
personal issue.
it was a somebody being controlling.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And they do this quite. Oh, hey everybody. They do this quite often, as
Hmm.
far as
Hmm.
the making up of excuses, or it's usually a way to hurt the other parent,
Uh-huh.
or because they feel entitled to the child somehow, or they think the other parent's not responsible, etc., or mostly a way to hurt the other parent, right? um,
Yeah. It also feels like a form of winning if they can win the child that way.
it does, absolutely. And in fact, personally, I have never I've spoken about this only once before in a TikTok. Um, but and it was just not very long ago, because I didn't realize until literally less than 6 months ago, probably, how maybe a year ago, how profoundly my own life had been affected by this,
Hmm.
with uh, one of my biological parents essentially writing off the other. And then when okay, when I was two, there was divorce. There was there were papers drawn up. This was during the time when, in the state that I was in, there was pretty much, if the mother wasn't a complete total piece of crap in the eyes of the court, she got the kid.
Hmm.
And I mean, especially being a female child, I get it. But um, during the first several years after that, I was apparently visiting here and there, off and on. Um, and after that, I was almost completely cut off because of a couple of different issues. I'm not going to discuss everybody's business right here, but it was the part I want to talk about is this. I wanted to know this person who was my biological parent, and my other biological parent said things that made me feel bad about wanting to know that
Yep.
person. I was
Yep.
shamed and guilted,
Hmm.
um, and to be fair, I had a decent dad who raised me who wasn't that one, but I still wanted to know that one. That infuriated the
Yeah.
narcissist.
Hmm.
Um, and I
Yeah, people don't realize that for children it isn't one or the other. It's
that's
every
right,
they want everyone that is important to them.
right,
And they should have access to everyone that is important to them. So,
right. And by not having that family, I didn't just have not the father, I had not the family. So I missed an entire part of my
right, right, right.
culture.
Yeah, that's same. Yeah, similar.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, I miss, anyway, I could write a whole damn book about this, but I won't. But well, maybe I will. Parental alienation. I don't know. We'll see. Because as a survivor of narcissistic abuse from the parent who kept me, I was able to see from across the pond over there. Well, not literally like England or anything, but across the way where this other parent lived with one of his other biological children and their mother, who was younger than me. I was able to see that he wasn't doing the same things that were being done to me. And I felt very jealous and sad about it. And when I
Right.
was around, I was treated perfectly great by this person. Never
Mhm.
had any problems at all. The issue was that he had cheated, not on me.
Right,
Um,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a punishment, and that sounds like, and a way to win you. By winning you, it proves he's bad. By winning you,
right,
it proves she's right.
right.
Mm.
And whether or not it's relevant, I learned later in life that, you know, girls have more DNA from their father than their mother. And that's irrelevant. But what I find interesting is that I have since met this person and realized that I have such a significant amount in common
Mm.
there that I didn't have anywhere else in my life.
Yeah, it
And
is that it's that imprinting of who you are as a person when you have that.
and
Hmm.
I'm angry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm angry. So it's a difficult, I think, for an adult, as an adult survivor, looking back from my own childhood stuff, my marriages, all the other crap I went through. Well, one marriage that failed. Um, my you know, and when I remember being angry at that parent when I first, the one that I thought abandoned me.
Hmm.
Found out later that wasn't the case, but um, when I held my first child in my arms, and I got very angry, and how could he leave me like this? You know,
Hmm.
I was just a year or two old, you know, when it was over. But my point of talking about all of this is not to tell you all my story, but to say what happens is that you end up feeling like you don't matter. You feel disconnected from everything. You feel
Hmm.
guilty for wanting to know your own damn family. I mean,
Yeah, and
I was made to feel.
mine's a little different where I never felt angry that he actually it was both of them that they weren't there.
Right.
It's like something in me knew that they were being withheld from me. And
And that might be,
yeah, I mean,
tell
I
me.
think we all have our own like, but I think that's totally valid. Like what you're saying, that anger, mine is more displaced toward the person who did it
Well,
than
right.
because I think for some reason, even I think maybe that's why I didn't see it till recently that that's exactly what it was, is because I always knew what it was.
I knew
You
as
know what
I
I
knew
mean? Yeah.
some level, but go ahead.
No, well, no, you had a lot more enmeshment with your mother going on that.
But you, it sounds like had enmeshment with another person in your life.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm thinking like it's interesting, like the way they manipulate it, it can affect you differently, or it can, but it definitely affects you. It definitely,
Yes.
yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely,
And for children, when you are in that place where you're kind of like, well, I'm half of that person. And now
mhm,
as an adult, I know a little more than half, right? I
mhm.
actually have DNA that proves I'm more than half related to that person. Anyway, um, and when you see that, and then you uh, and then you see like this person's like me, and those people that I was raised with, I was never enough for those people. And
Mhm.
then I was made to feel guilty for when I didn't know this person who's like me and for being myself on
Right.
top of that. And
Mhm.
so now I know this person over here that is my biological father is hated, isn't you know, how dare you even want something's wrong with you for even being half that person. I don't like your smile because you're half that
Right.
person. You
Because
know
you're
what I mean?
that person, right?
And it's devastating on a huge level.
Yeah,
So
and actually the shame, now that you say it, is the common denominator, the shame for being who you are and wanting contact with your
right,
biological. Yeah. Hmm.
right. And on top of this, you know, to find out that I wait, I just lost it. I lost it anyway. I'll come up with that later. But you know, when you're going, my point is, growing up, then you feel like nothing you could ever do, say, think, feel is
Hmm.
right, and then when you have
Hmm.
people who reinforce that, it's yeah. And when I say I was jealous of the siblings that he did get to be in contact with, I don't mean to say that there's anything wrong with those people.
No.
I'm just saying, and nor was there anything outside of enabling wrong with the person who did raise me as a father. He was very good to me, no complaints. but I always felt this loss. And especially because the side of the family that I lost was the side where I could have learned about a large part of my cultural heritage that I can't know about because of that on the same level, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
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 So I guess I'm saying you feel not good enough. You feel because you're the parent that keeps you or the person who keeps you has some distaste for that person that they kept you from. You feel not good enough because even though that person wants to be in your life, you don't know as a child or oh, I know what I was going to say. Here's the other thing. When I was like 6 or 7, there was a situation where for some reason I was at my grandmother's for a long time. I think it had to do with my mother going into the army.
Mm-hmm.
And he came to my grandmother's house because my grandmother tried to reconnect us. Oh, I was also not allowed to carry my real last name. As a
Oh, me either.
see, so much in common.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So my grandmother would write my real last name and things. And this is my mother's too, not my father's. I didn't even get to know her very well, but she would tell me, and anyway, my mother was away, so she brought him in to see me, and I remember feeling disloyal to my mother for even trying to see him.
Mm-hmm.
So in my little 6 or 7 year old mind, I made all these little ultimatums to him, and I didn't want to, but I felt like if I didn't, I was betraying my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And she reinforced that throughout my entire life. So I think that's a thing that a lot of us don't.
You're describing loyalty binds.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talk on it, speak on it.
Well, I need notes for it because it's not talked
Okay.
about enough to like just
Okay.
do it out of my mouth, but it is something that happens when you have can happen whether someone's toxic or not, but anyone who is giving a me or them situation to a child. And we can do
Yes.
it by trying to protect our children from narcissists too. So we have
Right.
to be careful with our words, when we're,
Yes.
that's part of why we try to do it very responsibly,
Of
right?
course.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's
And
anyone, it's the binds that hold you through guilt, shame, and obligation instead of
oh,
love, uh, respect, and nurturing.
and you know what? And that's interesting because I was tightly bound,
Mm-hmm.
tightly bound until the moment that my mother committed the ultimate betrayal, which I've spoken
Right.
to you and many of these other people about before, and written about,
Mm.
where she called CPS on my family and told lies for a revenge call because she was mad at me. So I guess my point is, and then in that moment that it broke, but here I am today, still feeling like I need to tiptoe around that topic and
Uh-huh.
be very
Oh, me
careful
too.
not to.
I'm like watching what I say.
Me
Isn't
too.
it? Yeah, in an anxious like, oh, my tummy hurts. Yeah. Do we want to talk about this? Because
Like, should I?
kind of shameful. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, I can remember similar stuff of being like um called into special meetings, so to speak, to be told about traits about my father and my mother that
Mm.
were negative and basically character defamation when you look at it in subtle ways. And I probably was 7 or 8. So,
It's,
and so that goes in your head, and at the same time, your heart's thinking, but I want to be with them.
yes.
And it's not so much I want to be with them only. It's I
Right.
want them in, like, you're not, as a
You want to
child,
know them,
yeah, you're not trying to take sides. You're just trying to have family.
and you shouldn't ever have to take sides.
No.
Now, let's fast forward into my first marriage real quick.
Hmm.
My son, from my first marriage, he struggled a lot in his life, and his father walked away. Now, he was allowed to see him. I made sure of it. I did ask for supervised visits, and I gave him the option to choose me or a court appointed supervisor. He chose me because he had issues that were not safe for my son for him to be alone. Okay. So he was allowed to see him every weekend if he wanted to. And that kid is 24 years old today and has not seen him since. And when he was 18, he reached out to this man, and this man told him all the good story. Oh yes, let's have a life. Let's be father and son. Let's try to have, let's do all the things. And I'll call you. We'll get together. Never happened. I didn't want my son to call the man, but I had to let my son call the man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't something that a therapist did it with him. you know. And I was not thrilled, but I did let him because he needed to know. And oh, we'll talk more about that. Okay, so there's different situations. You have a parent like my ex-husband who alienates himself. By the way, I never spoke badly about him, and I never made my son feel bad. In fact, I would share with my son things that I liked about him and things that were good about him because I didn't want him to feel like I felt, right?
Well, yeah, you don't want him to think half of himself is bad.
Right. And I made sure he knew his grandparents on the other side. I took him to big family events and all this other stuff. So I did, when I knew his parents at the time kind of chose me over him, which is weird, but I'm a really nice person. He was toxic. So, anyway, so I did my best to prevent what happened to me, but it still happened in that he was alienated by his own self, the father. So my point is, you might be an adult survivor. You might be a parent struggling with being alienated from your child. You might be a parent struggling with a parent who's walked away and abandoned your child. But in any case, or any number of other things, in your case, you were somehow removed from parents, and someone else was managing, right? Raising you.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's the name issue, which may or may not be a big deal, but
it is a big deal when you're a kid, especially if it's your only link to your family.
Yes. And in my case, the name was very typical of the nationality.
Me too, right? Let me look at my name. I put it back.
Right. Oh, you did? Did you put it back?
Yeah, it's back. Yeah. I put it back
I didn't.
In high school. Yeah.
I love that. I never did that, and I didn't have the option to. In high school. I probably could have when I got married, but that would have been kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna marry you, but I'm gonna use my
my original and my ON
certificate name.
Yeah. Oh, the worst thing in that case is there is no record of my birth anymore from that original day. I was halfway adopted, and so my birth name is legally has never been my name according to the courts.
Wow. Yeah. See, it's like, who am I? Who am I?
Yeah. Pretty upsetting. So I get it. All right. Anything else you want to say about this before we jump in the chat?
No, it's a good start there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Hey everybody. First of all, I want to say thanks to our mod squad for being here today. I know Jack Lumen and Simmerine. I almost forgot the name. Simmerine. Thank you both for being here. Stacy, the Sparkling Star. Hey girl. Hey, welcome back. Ellen C from our channel membership group Spanily. Kira. Hey Kira, also from the membership. I'm happy to see you guys, my inner circle people. All right, let's just get into it. All right, so we have, Kira says, okay. Oh, LNC said she knows a lot about this topic. Right on. Well-ish, right?
Yay.
Yay. Kira says, exactly. You don't realize it was your experience until you can look back on it. And that's the same that I had. I saw other people doing it, and I would be very like, don't do that to their own children.
Right.
Even with a narcissist, you don't want to talk bad about a person to their child when they're small. I mean, but I will say this really quickly. I was told, I took my kid to a therapist when he was about 4 with me. Like the two of us went together because his friends at preschool had dads. He didn't. He said to me, Mom, why does everybody else have a dad? Where's my dad? Who's my dad? So that was really hard. He was about 3, I guess. And so I took him to the doctor, and the doctor was like, a therapist, and the therapist said to me, you have to tell him something. I said, well, what am I supposed to say? Like, I don't keep him from his mother, blah, blah, blah. So the therapist said, tell him what he can understand, the truth, what he can understand in his own little 4-year-old or 3-year-old mind or whatever. And he said, don't lie for the father. Don't say the father's sick. Don't say the father, died or anything. Just say he has the right to see you, but he chooses not to see you. And that's not your fault. And then I'm always going to be here for you. And that's what I told him. And I cried and cried. We both cried. We were laying in my bed at the time, nose to nose, like just talking.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was just, yeah. Let's move on. But it was the right thing to do because then my kid didn't, and this is what the doctor said to me, your child won't resent you if you tell the truth.
Right. There's a way to tell the truth without pointing a finger.
Correct.
And that's
And
what I've always done too. Just, I'm sorry that they made that choice.
right. And
And
but it's not your fault. You're
it's your
amazing and
fault.
wonderful. And you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Mhm.
And then the I'll always be there. Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Let's see. Okay. Magma, my pleasure. She said, thanks for talking about this. Ellen, okay, here we go. Peggy says, so true. A child often doesn't recognize it. They assume it's normal. Yeah. I did, I was in the secretive club almost. Like I didn't want to be, but I knew the rules. I knew that I wasn't allowed to say things. You know, I wasn't allowed to ask questions about this person. And whatever I did, it never went well. It was, oh, poor me, victim, victim, victim.
Yeah.
No,
Hmm.
they were both kids. I mean, they were teenagers when they had me. So like, let's move on. But anyway,
Right. And
um,
it's really hard when you're watching it in a child and you see it happening and
yeah,
you can't
it really is.
say anything because the child's already wrapped up in the guilt.
Right. Oh, I know, I know. And I've seen it. I've seen it too in other family members and friends even. And it's so inconsiderate. People, I think the problem is that people don't look at children as whole people.
They use, well, narcissists don't.
We know this, right? But
Yeah.
I think, well,
Yeah.
yeah, let's just
Hmm.
move on. Um, yeah. Hey, Venus Vegas says, I've experienced this and I'm trying to repair the relationship with my daughter because I couldn't be there for her at all. Venus, I don't know how alienated she remains, but if she is accessible in any way, like what I suggest to people is if you aren't able to connect with them, like directly, they won't talk to you or they won't be near you. You know, if they are adults with their own address, I would send them physically or email, whatever, a card, Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, and their birthday twice a year. Big
Hmm.
holidays only, and one big holiday, one birthday. I would simply say, I love you. I know you're not happy with me right now, but I just want you to know I love you. I'll always love you. I'll always be here. Reach out when and if you feel like it. Here's my contact information, something of that nature.
Hmm.
Um, because sometimes that will be enough. Sometimes they'll never ever reach out to you, and in that case, it's terrible.
It
But
is.
you have to, if they are adults, you have to figure out ways to kind of, if they refuse after a while, you need to give up, right? And you can't harass them or anything. But but if you were able to even have lunch with them, or a phone call, sometimes that's all you need to get started. You know what I mean? Sorry, Lisa, I don't mean to talk so much. What do you have for
No,
me?
no, it's good. It's good stuff. Yeah, and I'm just thinking also there might be it's um making sure that if you do reach out that it's about giving them info that they might need and not about yourself, unfortunately,
Yes,
because at this point they've already been turned against you.
correct.
You've already been told you're X, Y, and Z, and you don't want to present even a little bit that way because
That's right.
it can
And so, for
betray you.
example, like if you have medical history in your family of breast cancer or
Right. You might,
diabetes,
yeah, you could
yeah,
say if you ever want to reach out even for things like medical history or
hmm
family history or anything you need to know, I can keep my, and then not it's so hard not to be emotional over that, but some people are very guarded at that point. Mhm.
and you don't know always exactly. You may know, but you may not know how badly you were smeared to your own children.
Oh yeah. Mhm. And
You
your whole
know,
family.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And when I think about in my parents' situation, when I think that if they had, um, if some of them, one of them, had taken the time to recognize what really happened, that they were two children, basically. I
Hmm.
think they were 17
Right.
17 and 18 or 18 and 19, something when I was born. And I have an 18-year-old son in the house right now. I'm here to tell you, he's a great, smart, sweet, empathic kid. But, and I think he actually would be a good dad when he gets old enough. But I don't think anybody at 18 is, I mean, and people do well, people raise great kids, but
It's
I think in
tough.
their,
Yeah. Hmm.
but remaining angry 46 years later, come on now. You don't have to love him, but you don't have to hate him either.
Hmm.
uh, you can just ignore them like they don't exist. But if your child, we're moving on. Okay. Tell me if you have anything to say, Lisa. I don't
I
mean
will.
to.
Yeah. You're
Okay.
okay.
Let's see here. So, Venus, if you are still around, let us know how it's going with your daughter. I'm really interested in knowing. Hey, Susie. Elizabeth. Ellen says, my children's father failed to send them to me after a summer vacation.
Oh,
After, oh my gosh, Ellen, I'm so sorry. Okay, hold on, let me read this. My children's father failed to send them to me after a summer vacation, as I had moved out of the country. This turned into 7 years of brainwashing them. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah, Grace, it is true. Grace says parental alienation is so hard to digest on so many
it
levels.
really is.
Everything. It
Mhm.
is everything. It takes away so much,
And it's
especially,
subtle, right? It's subtle how they get it in there. It's not like it's well, sometimes they're very overt, but oftentimes it's repeated, uh, subtle half truths,
yeah.
provable half truths.
Mhm.
You know, your father never reached out to call you. True. Why didn't he reach out to call me? Because she'd hang up the phone if he
Right,
did. And
right,
he didn't want the rejection.
right.
At the same time as, you know, as it was fight or roll over and what's better
Right.
for the kid. Sometimes it's better to not fight in you know, when you're 20 some years old and a
Yeah.
parent, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's awful.
It's
And
awful.
it
But
really is. It takes away, I mean, like I said, unless your parents, happen to grow up in the same town in the same community and they're the same people, like you miss an entire half of yourself.
oh yeah.
And
Mhm.
in my case, the side I would have identified with more, I know that now, but I felt like an alien where I did grow up. I felt completely different than everybody, and I was, you
Mhm.
know. So it's anyway. Now this is interesting. Ellen says it's taken me 10 years to repair the damage that my children's father did, and now they are adults. Now that they're adults, they're finally seeing the truth. Thank you. I love that. I love to hear that. That's a beautiful.
Good. Yeah.
Nicole, Angelina in the house. Hey, girl. Hey. um, let's see here, and we have Grace. Oops. Grace says, I still come to realizations from time to time. Usually seems unexpected but enlightening. Yeah, I same,
Yeah.
same.
Same
I
thing.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I am not fully healed from this one yet. I'm still working through it. I don't even know that I just, like I said, about 6 months to a year ago, I realized I had the right to be angry.
Yes. Yes. Because the guilt is it's I'm telling you, loyalty binds are they're
Paralyzing.
harder than trauma bonds, in my opinion, to see and to understand. And when they go hand in hand with trauma bonding,
Yeah,
you're just frozen, and you don't have an opportunity to think it through with any form of logic because you're the guilt and the shame is so huge.
for sure. You know
Just
what, Lise?
yeah, just
Go
for
ahead.
being who you are, guilt and shame, just for being who for wanting connection with someone, even if it's I just want him to come to my birthday party.
Right.
Or I just
Yeah.
want like it's not even a threat to the other parent.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. I mean,
Right.
this is the thing. I did not. There was no threat. I would have been happy to have both parents, all three parents,
Right.
four.
Right. Right.
you know.
Yeah, it was
Um.
no there was no competition. And it's tricky because here we talk about, you know, when we parallel parent with toxic people, would it be better for our children to be away from that person? Kind of maybe sometimes, but at the same time there's this. And so it's a touchy
So right, and that's why, like for example, with my ex-husband,
you just
the
left
court.
yeah.
You know what I mean? The court
Yeah.
was like, here you go, and I have sole custody. Well, he's an adult now. I had sole custody of him. You know, and that was fine. But I was not ever trying to keep him away. I
Exactly.
never. You
Right. You
know.
can monitor it.
Right.
You can certainly keep some check on it, but
My plan was until he was physically big enough to beat his butt. Until my
right.
son was bigger, then that was what I was planning to be there until then. Interestingly enough, both of my sons are taller than both of their fathers. I feel really good about that being 5 feet tall. I
Yeah.
talked about anyway, but it really does, seeing this, my oldest go through this since, and myself, as an adult now looking back and realizing how profoundly affected I have been and how
Hmm.
screwed I got
Hmm.
out of not knowing this person who I could sit and have conversations with for hours. And now he's old and we're different, we're the same, but we didn't have a father-daughter relationship. And I'm
Right.
still,
It's a
yeah,
friend now or
yeah,
a at best. Yeah.
basically,
Hmm.
basically a friend.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's the thing that sucks because, and we're both, well, that's another day. But the thing is, that if I had grown up with someone who was like me in this way, I would have known that I was not broken or stupid or wrong.
Exactly.
I would have known that there was somebody like me and that it was okay to be that way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Whatever that is.
Do. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anyway, um, yeah. William says, I have stayed away, abused so much, I've gone supernova. I can't stop my passion. I will destroy an army. I'm so angry inside. Feel broke like the Siberian tiger. I'm awake and mad. Oh, oh yeah. I get it. I mean, my Siberian tiger might be like a really mad cat,
Yeah.
like a
I
house
have a
cat,
small
you know?
kid missing in the corner, but that's it.
It's like, meow.
Yeah.
You know? But my point is, I feel you on that anger. I have only just recently found I didn't even know I was allowed. Okay. When they're saying,
Exactly. And even now, like you said, even now talking about it, it's a little bit anxiety provoking.
yeah, I'm just now, yeah, just like I said, I did a 1 minute TikTok on it like a couple months ago, and I have not spoken about it ever before or since. And now I think it's time that we have to talk about it because I know that I'm not the only one
No.
who
No,
I
I think
didn't
it's
even
really common. I think it's super common, especially when you have a narcissist on the other end.
right, right. So in some cases, though, it's not the custodial parent's fault. Like I have one client that I'm thinking of off the top of my head right now, who her mother did everything she could, but the father just took off and started another family, then another one, and so on and so forth. And she's not mad at her mother because her mother didn't do it. It was the father who did it. He took off. She didn't try to keep him away. He just went.
Yeah.
So it's important to be careful with blame. But if you were told your parent is terrible, your parent is a piece of shit, he doesn't deserve you, he doesn't deserve this, that, or the other, he will do bad things, blah, 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 blah. What's going to happen is that this right here.
Yeah.
I think at best, I mean, which is sad because my point is only this. My point is, no matter, unless the person that you had that child with is a murderer, a rapist, a child molester, something of that nature, and even a murderer, you could probably go to prison and let him visit, which sounds a little excessive, but even they should at least have the opportunity to once sit face to face with their parent if that's possible, right? But maybe not a murderer, okay, but depending on the circumstances, right? My point is, I'm getting a little weird right now. My point is, I think it's very important for the child to make their own choices about their parent when at all possible, right? I don't think my son has any interest in following up with his father after he spent, 16 years of his life without him and then tried to reach out to him and then he was blown off. And he's pretty much said to me, I don't really care about that. And I get it, but it's his choice, not mine. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's how it should be. And if I remember telling my mother when I was about 12 that I wanted to go and see my father who had called and asked to see me again. And she begrudgingly allowed it. And then
yes, with guilt and shame and
so much.
an application of everything negative about the person, and then the silent treatment upon return.
Yeah. And before it was all awkward and the whole thing. And even while I was there, I felt I never got to call him dad.
Nope.
My mom would, yeah. It's ugly stuff, man. It's ugly stuff.
Yeah, and I can remember the exact same scenario, and then coming home and then being told I could never go there again because I was allowed to watch a movie that she wouldn't allow.
That's insane. Okay, because I'm gonna try to stay cool.
Yeah, it's and him being told that's the last time because you obviously don't know how to parent and not your kid.
Not right, right?
Not right. Yeah.
It's really ugly.
Yeah. It wasn't. I can just, it's one of those. See, I'm the one left with the shame around it that I watched the movie. I think it was Star Wars of all things.
What the what?
Well, it was PG at the time, right?
Right.
And you didn't do that when we were little. You didn't watch PG, when we didn't. But
I believe it.
But yeah, it's that was. And then I remember feeling in trouble for watching the movie and that it was my fault now that I couldn't see him anymore because
Oh my God.
I watched a movie.
It's not right.
No.
Tell me.
No, no, I'm just saying that it's like wow, that really sticks as a distinct memory that just kind of came back.
Oh, isn't that crazy? And and now that you're sitting here and you're talking about it, I mean, I don't know. I should have asked you before we went live
But yes, this
if
is
you wanted to
unscripted, guys.
completely unscripted. Yeah, I really didn't even think to ask Lise.
No.
I said I want to talk about it because of this, and then yeah,
No, it's
but
good. It's good. No, it's not I think it's interesting that the shame, guilt, obligation falls back on the child every single time.
yes, yes, and that's exactly what happened in both of our cases, I think. And
Mhm.
I really, really thought the whole time until I was 46 years old or 45, and now I just turned 47 a few days ago. Um, I really believed that whole time that this was my fault,
Yes.
that I was wrong for even being. This is so stupid. I was wrong for even well
Well,
to
it's
what
not
he
like you
was.
consciously walked around and thought that every day. It's just those little thoughts that are in your subconscious that hadn't come to the surface yet with the realization of, wait a minute, what? That's
Right.
not right.
A
Yeah.
lot of things, yeah,
Ah.
and periodically throughout my life, I had various like little crises around it, where I
Mhm.
felt disconnected. Of course, going no contact with my mother after all the drama and the stuff she did when my kids were little. I absolutely felt disconnected and still do feel disconnected from
Mhm.
every family member.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
it is what it is, what it is. you know,
Mhm.
Ellen C says, I watched my mother do this to my brother, keeping them from my father. So I've had this done to me and watched it done to my brother. Oh, Ellen, I'm so sorry.
Mm.
So awful. Yeah. Um, Adrian says, they will stick, they will kick the child out on the streets. It's so much more is a lot. Child is, okay. So I think she's saying, she says facts. They'll kick the child out on the streets so much more. It's a lot that to let the child see behind closed doors. Oh, the child sees a lot behind closed doors.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. The child sees it, but they still feel somehow responsible. They feel when I watch it in a child, what I see, and this is a real story, is the child trying to make sure that the toxic parent is okay and
Yes.
taking responsibility because if they're not okay, then the toxic parent does the toxic things. And then
Yes.
the child doesn't feel safe, but they're not seeing, oh my gosh, toxic parent is so toxic. They're seeing, oh my gosh, I have to make sure it's okay. And therefore, I'll take the blame, the guilt, the shame of liking my other parent.
Right.
And I'll feel bad about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And not only in my case, not only was it that I wanted to see him, but it was also that I looked like him or I laughed like him or
Oh,
I,
yeah. Oh, yeah. That's, yeah. Hmm.
and how could I even know to do that when I didn't know him? That's why I
Right.
should have known him. You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly. Uh-huh.
infuriating. Yeah. Um, it's and the behind closed doors is very valid. And that's the other thing. I mean, Lisa, I don't know your whole story. I think I might know part of it, but I'm kind of forgetful at times.
That's okay. You've
But
got a lot of stories in your head. I
a lot
understand.
of stories. Yeah. Yes, I do. But I know that, seeing behind closed doors, this part, it's, and you don't want to tell each parent. So what's interesting is the parent that I didn't get to know very well, anytime I was around him, and even today as an adult, when I shouldn't even say this out loud, but here when I have visited him at Denny's one time, but I mean, we met there. Um, he never said a bad thing about my mother, not once, not
Exactly.
once.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And she had a lot to say. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, yes. Okay, here we go. Oh, yay, Mima Dragon. Welcome, welcome. Welcome back. Okay. Yeah, Stacy relates to parental alienation, she says. Um, Venus says, when I had my daughter and son a year later, they were both removed out of my custody by the state because I was not married and I'm disabled. This would be, Venus, are you outside of the United States? I got the impression, oh, maybe because I don't know. I know I've seen people in certain countries, and I'm not going to mention any country names or anything like that, so don't ask. But certain countries, um, people, one parent is from the country, and they will take their children and run to that country and leave the other parent here with no children and no rights, um, unless the parent comes to that country, and then they can get stuck there. It's a whole thing.
Mm.
So I don't know if this is what this is, or if this is something inside the United States, or but I feel you, and I'm sorry. Anything for Venus on that, please?
The well,
I
I mean,
had
yeah, it's awful.
it,
It's it's again one of those situations where I wish there was something we could do, but
right. I mean,
yeah,
there's you just have to work on healing your own heart
on your own
and
heart, yeah,
face
mhm,
and hope,
hope.
I guess, that your children are safe. I mean, the one thing that we can say is that even, I mean, certainly narcissists are known to abuse some, their children, but we can say that they usually try to keep them safe from other people, I guess.
True.
It
Often.
depends on the parent, of
Yeah.
course.
Hmm.
Because what about the neglectful ones?
Well,
I
they
mean,
also often marry good people
that's
and
valid.
use them as
That
supply, and so we can hope. Yeah.
that's a really good point. And I want to say that really quickly. As much as we don't want to think about the other supply, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
As, okay. As much as we don't think about the new supply as people who may or may not have been married to narcissists past ourselves, um, we could take, and now that we're all out and moving forward, or some of us are out, whatever. Me being out for as long as I've been out, I can now take it a different perspective, and that is exactly what you just said, Lise. That it's usually two narcissists don't work together, so they're going to find another sweet, kind, compassionate person most of the
Hopefully.
time,
Hopefully.
and
Yeah.
that person may protect your child as well. Which is why I suggest not being mean to the new supply if you can avoid it.
Yeah. I have a friend who has an ex psychopath, and she says regularly, I just can't wait for the day that he finds someone better than me so that my child will have someone looking out for them when they're over there.
And that's,
She's
I
just
think, the
like,
best we
I
can
don't
hope
think
for.
he'll find anyone worse. I think he'll go for someone better to make me feel bad.
What's better? Better
Well,
is
you
better
know
is
what I mean?
relative.
Like somebody
Yeah,
that is actually like, yeah, in her words,
I
yeah.
gotcha. But it's not even really, you know what it's about? It's about different, but also similar. Because
Oh yeah.
what I
Oh yeah.
noticed is the two of the three, I don't know the fourth one who came after me with my first husband, but two of the three of them that came after me I've met and talked to. And one of them I don't still talk to, but that's probably for her own relief
Hmm.
because she divorced him. The other one, Megan, I talk to her all the time, and we're great friends, and we became friends after they divorced because you know.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's interesting because I was able to get like a little bit of a fly on the wall understanding of how he talked about my son when I wasn't there, and it was
Mm.
funny because he pretended like he had something to do with him, and he never did. So
Exactly. They, oh my gosh, they all do that.
the
Uh,
sob story, yeah.
uh-huh. Uh-huh. Ugh.
Hmm, I know. Okay, how are we doing on time? Do you have an appointment right now?
No, in a half hour.
Okay, me too. Okay. Well, let's answer or do a few more comments and then
Okay.
we'll yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Oh yeah. As Peggy adds, the child is rebuked for not being loyal. I was.
For
You
not,
were.
yes.
Yep.
And by not being loyal, that can mean liking the other person.
Right. Right.
Not even asking to see them, just simply liking them. Just not
Yep.
talking negative about them.
Right.
Hmm.
Yep. Exactly. All right. Okay. Nemo Dragon says I had parental alienation, but then my mom didn't want me either. Never saw or met my father.
Mm.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. That's the other thing. Okay, that's a really good point. Okay, the parent who kept us, or the person who kept us, in my case, I was a burden. I should have been killed at
Yes.
birth or before I was born. That's what I was told. But what about you?
Yeah, a burden, a ward, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What's interesting? Oh,
Yeah, it doesn't
okay.
make sense. It does, I mean, it makes sense because we know what we're talking about, but it's
But it also, yeah,
it's also
as
like, yeah.
you know, when I looked at my oldest son's face and I could see his father's eyes, for example, or I could see his mouth or the way he held his, something. My oldest has an incredibly deep voice, and so did my ex-husband. Really super, super deep. And like unnaturally almost. if he could if he could sing a
can
note, he
picture
could
that.
be a
Yeah.
great bass singer. Yeah. Anyway, and so like those little things, if that was my mother's child and that was her ex-husband, those would be triggers.
Oh
For
yeah.
me, I try to remember, and it sounds confusing. To be fair, I've been out of that relationship since 1998, legally divorced since 1998. Nope, 99, divorced. Point being, I've had many years to get over this, so please don't think that you need to be like this if you're
Right.
just
Yeah.
getting out right now. Okay. But I now try to, especially with my son as he gets older, if I see something in him that reminds me of the ex that I liked about the ex, I would say to him, you have beautiful eyes. I really, they look just like your father's eyes. I love your eyes, whatever. You have a beautiful smile. You have a great voice, whatever. Because those were things I liked about that man, you
Mm-hmm.
know, even though with my mother, I'm sure she probably liked some of the things about what's his name that came through in me, and she didn't like that. So I think it's really important to not point out things about your child that are like their father or mother that you don't like. Okay. And if you don't like them, don't point them out because your child, like, don't connect it to the parent, connect it to a behavior or something, but not
Right.
like
Right.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Parent the behavior, not where it came from.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. And this is
I
from
remember
Ellen.
that
She's,
off topic here, though. I mean, not off topic, on topic, different part. I can remember having the parents as threats. So if you don't blah blah blah, then I'm gonna have to just send you back to the person that I'm telling you is so awful and you shouldn't be around.
right. And that's like major gaslighting in a way, right?
Oh yeah.
Because you're being told they're scary and terrible and awful, but also if you love them, you're bad. And your brain was probably like, what?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, if you're not this, then that, then I'm gonna send you. If you don't, I mean, it wasn't even, I don't think I was that bad. I mean, like I was pretty compliant. So,
right.
yeah.
As was I, of course, with codependence. Of course, we were like, please love us.
Please don't hurt. Don't tell me I'm wrong.
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm so bad. Please love me. I mean, right. Okay. Ellen says, I never made my children choose between me and their father. I never badmouth, never degrade, and now they are adults. They're seeing the truth. It's hard, but remain true, and they will see. And I believe that with all of my heart.
Hmm.
I wish that, but then we have to expect some children. Okay, so one of my clients right now is 5 adult children, and they are alienated. But it's because of her second husband, not the father of the children. Um, and and so she's doing her best to kind of reconnect with them now. But some of them are pretty pretty angry, and so she's not sure how well it's going to work with all of them. But we're going to get there, and it's going to, she's going to do her best to reconnect. My point is, sometimes the children have been so deeply conditioned that they couldn't hold on to whatever it was that I held on to and you held on to, right?
Right. Hmm.
Right. And I was conditioned that deeply, but I have a rebel heart. What can I tell you?
I think that's it. I think it's the
You know,
uh-huh.
there's something deeper than that. It's like
The
a connection.
INFJ, ENFJ in us that doesn't
Hmm.
that sees the big picture, and we're like, you can't, yeah, can't lie to me too much.
Right. You can see through it.
Can
Yeah.
see through it.
Well, and that just slightly off topic, but still on topic. Sometimes when we have people like who were teen parents or who were some big trauma happened to them in their life during those especially during the teen years
Mhm.
or before, they stopped growing emotionally at that moment. So when my mother had me as an 18 or 17-year-old, however old she was, she, I think she stayed at that age emotionally forever. And I've
Mhm.
seen it with other people too. And the point of that is who who would who would do that? Who would take a baby and a child and turn it against its other parent? A teenager or a child. I
And
mean,
couple that with some narcissism, and you've got like the perfect combo for that.
it's a
Hmm.
perfect storm. Yep,
Hmm.
exactly. Um, okay, Darlene says, I experienced it before I left the marriage. My then husband was under investigation, so couldn't be at home. Whenever my 15-year-old daughter argued with me, she would call him. He would tell me he would something relationship now. I think we're missing one of her comments, but yeah, so she was being alienated from her child by an inside job, and that's
Oh yeah. I know how that is.
it's almost worse. And so
You
this is
don't
the
like it
thing,
over there? Why don't you call me and tell me what's happening? I'll work
right?
it through. I'll work through your problems over there. Here.
Right.
I'm
That
the
doesn't
place to
work.
come to. Come here. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say this, I would say, as long as you know that your children would be physically safe, if not emotionally safe, if they really want to go live across town or in the next state with, their toxic parent as teenagers, because that's the only time they'd probably think about doing it.
They will think
um,
twice once they get there, but
yeah,
often,
you
yeah.
know, yeah,
Uh-huh.
I would suggest you send them for like a month in the summer and let them see how well they really like it. you can't, it might, it's hard for a narcissist to hold it together when you're living in the same house.
Oh yeah.
So they will be able to see, okay, maybe I want to go back to mom's house or dad's house or whatever, you know. Um, yeah. And I think that some courts are a little bit more open with um, allowing 15-year-olds to choose.
Mhm.
I think 15 is
Most
isn't
states.
it?
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
states.
yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Venus says, I never wanted my children to feel this pain, but I'm watching to learn about what they went through. Venus, I know it's painful for you to hear it, but I think that's really smart because I think that if what I've always understood about myself and other people around me who are not toxic people is if you can try, even toxic people, helping, if I can understand their situation and why they are the way they are, it takes the sting out a little bit for me.
Why the
But when it
situation
comes,
happened like it did without a lot of blaming.
right, but
Hmm
when it comes to my own children or people I care about in other ways, friends, family members, whatever, my husband, if I can understand their reason for the way they felt and why they felt that way, then I can understand how to help them feel better or
hmm
whether they need me to feel, you know what I mean? What,
hmm
so I always think that helps. So that's really,
Yeah, and
it's a,
I like that she said that because I'm hearing trying to understand what the child is going through
yes,
when we know how painful that is for her.
yes,
So
exactly.
it's not about what I go through, what I go through, what I go through. It's they're going through their own version of this. And what is that
It's a
like?
selfless act. Yeah,
It's a selfless act and it's good for you because it gives the bigger picture, which then if you do reconnect soon, you can come at it from empathy and understanding.
yes, absolutely. And this is something my client I was telling you about, she wrote this beautiful letter to her children explaining everything. And I don't think she sent it yet, but we're working on being ready to send it. And it's she took full responsibility for whatever she did relating to it, which she didn't do anything directly, but she allowed herself to be manipulated. And she, told the whole story, factual, not emotional. She said, I understand if you don't ever want to talk to me again, but I'm here. I love you. I wanted you to know what happened, and she did a really good job. And my point is, when you have a situation like this where you mess up or you don't mess up, it happens to you,
Right.
whether it happens to you as a child or a parent,
It's done to you.
it,
Right. Yeah. hmm
right? But being able to take, I'm not angry at my father anymore. I understand, and I also understand because I'm so much like him that if it were anything but my children, I might have let it happen. But I also know that the courts in the 70s, were very pro mother, which I understand that's the whole thing. Um, but I am angry, and I will get over it. But right now I'm angry because I just only learned I
Still
could be not
processing.
that
Yeah.
long ago.
Woke up and
you know,
said, "Yep."
you know, yeah,
Mhm.
yep. All right. I think we better get ready to wrap up here. Oh, wait, one more. Peggy says if they are disparaged, the child being part of that disparaged parent feels unworthy. Yes,
Yes.
yes, that's exactly what I was. Okay, one more from Ellen. I'm like, I'm sorry. Ellen says, now there's so much information out about this. When I first left my ex 15 years ago, no one to guide me. I followed my gut to remain kind, and now I tell every parent divorcing about this. Education is key. Yeah, I didn't fully understand that I was the victim of parental alienation, but I did understand how it felt to be the kid that didn't have the other parent. And I did understand how it felt to hear the bad things about the parent. So I always told people those things. Don't do this, don't do this. But literally, like I knew, but I didn't really get it. I know that sounds
Right.
stupid, but this
No,
is
it
what I
doesn't sound
do.
stupid at all. It's exactly how. Oh, it's no stupider than people who come talk to me for a narcissistic partner only to then realize, wait a minute, I grew up in it. How did I not realize that? I'm almost 50. And it's
Right.
not stupid. It's that this is covert manipulation.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
why would you expect it coming from the people who raised you?
Right.
You are
Exactly.
thinking the best of people and the worst of yourself, and that's because we're trained to. Yeah.
Except by the very people who
By
probably
the people
alienated our
who
other
are
parents, to be
they're
honest.
hiding their manipulation, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think it's stupid. I think it's good that it's for some reason it was your time to wake up to this, and
Yes.
for some
That's a
reason,
very good point.
yeah.
Yeah. So we are I want to talk about this more in the future.
Mhm.
I am we have an adult children of narcissist group already. Um, Maybe we need to, I don't know. I'm going to come back with more information about this parental
I can say
alienation
there's a
survivor.
lot of people in group coaching who talk about this with me.
Yeah,
Different
speak on it.
different aspects of it, different parts of it. Not so much like let's talk about alienation, but it can be part of it. Definitely just all the different the loyalty binding, the different ways they manipulate you to as a child, and then how it plays
This,
out in your relationships in life later on. So
right
there's
on.
a lot of it.
So, Lise, remind everybody, how do they get in touch with you for group and where do they go to look at stuff? And what's the deal with all of
I'm
it?
not sure where you post it here, but they can go to queenbeing.com/group
Groups.
coaching or groups,
Hmm.
and either one works. You can email me, Coach Lise C, LISEC @gmail.com, or it's usually posted down below in the main descriptions, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Or over on my channel, it's all over the place there. You can find it.
Hmm. And I think, yeah, that's right. And our awesome mod squad, Simmarine, will be posting links to Lisa's channel and our sites and everything else. I do believe group coaching. If it's not, I'll put it up on my front page as well on this channel.
Okay.
But if it's not, I'll do that
Yeah.
today, so they can look through that as well. What else? Oh, you have 3 meeting times a week, and you
Three
have
meetings. Yeah, we meet right now Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4:30 and Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific.
okay, and that's obviously 4:30 p.m. Yeah,
Yeah. I was going to say not a.m.
Pacific time.
4:30
Okay,
p.m. 11:30
p.m.
11 o'clock a.m. on Friday. Yeah.
Right on, and
Pacific.
they can attend one or all if they
They
want.
can attend as many as they like. People usually choose one or a couple to talk and let others so that everyone has a chance to rotate and it
Sure.
works
And
out
then
on its own.
it's sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard so many good things. And then one more thing, if it's $60 a month.
Yes. Yeah.
So for, so for $60 a month, you get 3 weekly opportunities to
Offer.
attend.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Right, you get the ongoing group chat
That's on Facebook right now. So
on Facebook right now. We can
we
move
meet
that.
on Zoom, but the chat is on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay, so face to face if they want to.
Hmm.
You're on Zoom and they can be on a face or just voice if they
Yes.
want.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, guys. So if you guys are interested in that, talk to Lise or go to queenbeing.com/groups, and we'll hook you up. At this point, I may be showing up. If you do a focus on parental alienation, I may show up just to talk with everybody. No,
There
I'm
you
just kidding. I'm
go.
just
You're
kidding.
welcome
I
in.
would pay though. I would come in as not a coach, but as like a okay.
Like,
All
okay,
right.
what's happening here?
Let me know. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know
okay.
it's an interesting one because I think it's like it's this it's so believable while it's happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it took literally 46 years.
No, I get it. I didn't like when you started talking about it, when you asked me, have you ever had that? I'm like, well, no, wait a minute. Yeah. For real. Like, and yes, I know. I'm not laughing because it's not funny, but it's,
No, I know.
I
We laugh.
laugh when I
We're
get
laughers.
uncomfortable. So
Me
it's,
too. Hee hee. Okay.
I gotta
Um,
lighten it up a little because honestly, I'm not living it now. Okay.
same. Yeah,
I'm not
same.
living it now and I have to lighten up or else I'll get heavy and dark. And
Yeah, nobody likes that. I don't want to get moody or dark either.
oh, I can,
Let's like keep it on the smiley side.
yeah, a little bit. A little
No,
bit.
but no, really, we all have cried about it, I'm sure. I
Mhm.
have cried, I'm sure you have as well. I just don't like to cry on camera because it's ugly when I cry. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh, cry. Okay. Anyway. All right. Lise has the group coaching. We all both have one-on-one coaching. Simran should be somewhere in the comments right now sharing all of the information for getting in touch with us. We will see you right here again next week. Lise, when's your next stream on your channel?
Tomorrow we'll be streaming tomorrow all week, hopefully every day. So
Ooh, okay now. I'm gonna do that too. So one of these days. All right. All right, guys. We'll see you soon. I have videos should be up for you each day this week after today. And
we'll do it.
oh, one last thing. Can we talk about loyalty binds next time?
Yes.
Okay with you?
I mean, it's it's one of those things where it's not really spoken about in our community. It's spoken about usually with step parenting. And that's
Okay.
where I put the two together when I was researching something for step parenting because I was like, what's going on? Wait a minute. Wait, that's what happened to me. Wait, that's the same thing. And I realized that it's words used, yes, but I need the notes because there's specific phrases that are used. And
Okay.
when I read them, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'll do some research this week as well. Yeah, this is going to be good. All right, guys. We'll see you next week for
Bye.
loyalty
Thank you.
binds. Jack, please remind us. Okay. See you, everybody. Thanks, Lisa.